Hello everyone, hope you're well. Let's see, it's Friday. What is the date? The 28th. You'll probably notice that this isn't Alley, the painting that we were working on last time. No, it's not Alley. I set up a little station. Sorry, my pocket just buzzed for some reason. I set up a little painting station and started working on my a sketchbook that I have set up for oil painting. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you probably saw I posted a picture of Emmy, a model friend of mine, the other day, and it was just kind of fun to get out my little sketchbook and here, let me show you real quick. Oh, I've got it taped up, but let's see here. Take this tape off. But I've been working on the sketchbook on and off for a little while. Let's see, I guess I wasn't planning on doing a sketchbook tour, but let's see, how do I show this? But I basically gesso the paper. It's a mixed media sketchbook, and I've got some previous attempts at master copies and things like that. And I guess if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen some of these. But I got it back out and I painted this picture that I love of Emmy. Put her up here. And I'm not painting any more friends with tattoos. But I really enjoyed this process, and it took me about 90 minutes to do, and I was just like, I want to do more of that. So I grabbed this picture of Scarlett that I like, and I'm going to do a quickie of her today instead of finishing up on Allie. We'll get back to Allie. Allie's a little more formal, and my drawing is really bad on it, so I'm taking a little break. I need to do some measuring and kind of fix the mistakes. I really had a lot of. I did that color mixing tutorial the other day, and despite that, I did go back that night and I did work on it a little bit. and of course, you know how it is. I basically went back and I redid all of the flesh tones, but now my drawing is bad. And that's the hardest part for me of painting, is doing the drawing. And not just doing the drawing, but measuring the drawing and getting it right and getting the likeness back. It's not in too bad a shape, but I just need to sit down and actually do some measuring and fix it. But in these, at least the last one was so nice and simple to do that I figured I'd do another one while the inspiration was high. I've been doing a lot of plein air painting too. I have been painting every day. I haven't been streaming every day, but I have been painting every day. And I'm also on I got Richard Schmid's wife or his family put out a book, and I didn't realize that it was out, or I would have gotten it sooner. But it's basically portraits and figure paintings, or figurative paintings, from Richard Schmid, and it's incredible. And to be honest, I'm a little overwhelmed with all the amazing art in it. Lan from my painting group mentioned that she got it, and I was like, holy crap. I think I ordered it that night, And anyways, that's got me on a Richard Schmid, Kai Lung Q, that whole genre of artist. Who else? Casey Bao. I think he changed his name to Eric Casey Bao now. But Casey Bao, that whole kind of line of painters. Brian Mark Taylor, who's kind of his own thing, but kind of that very expressive but accurate style of artist. And so we're gonna go a little looser, and we're gonna probably do a little less measuring than I normally attempt. And Kai Lung Q, if you ever watch this is this is my version of your style after watching a couple hours of your tutorials. So these guys all paint pretty loose. I'm just going to put in kind of a background color. And I'm going pretty blue here just because Scarlett's hair and kind of the white balance of this image is pretty warm. So background is going to be blue, and get the warm in on top of it. A lot of Gamsol, and that's because I want it to dry, because I want to be able to paint over the top of it. Yeah, I want it to dry. And I've also introduced a drying agent in my medium. I think I mentioned that last time that I was going to try it. I'm basically just using Galkid Light, which is a Gamblin product. So if you've been fortunate enough to go to one of Kai's workshops or watch one of his workshops online, he's very expressive, almost to the point where it's hard to follow like what he's actually doing. Like you'll just be watching him and you'll be like, I don't really even understand what part of the portrait he's painting. And then you'll just be watching him and then you'll be like, oh yeah, that's an eyebrow or that's an eye. Or so bear with me. We're going to be doing something similar. And a weird thing too about Kai is the whole time he's painting, he's telling you how little or how unimportant the color is. And he seems to care more, like a lot of painters, but you know, values are important and colors matter less. And I'm basically wiping out where Scarlett's face is. So I'm going to try to emulate that style and just try to be as loose, as expressive as possible. I've got a pretty wide. This is definitely a Kai Lung Q brush. If you look at if you look at his supply list, he uses a lot of these opals. I want to say 4, 6, 8, 12. This is the biggest one that this isn't actually an opal. I've got some opals over here, but the biggest ones that I have are 6s. So that's what we're going to use. This one is actually a better look. Spectrum. Let me flip it over and read it. Yeah, it's a Spectrum. But let's get started. So I'm still going to do stuff like eyebrows. If you watch Kai too, he's constantly wiping off his brush. I'm kind of constantly wiping off my brush too, but let's see. We're going to cut off her head a little bit, but I want her chin to be right about here. For me, the goal, and this isn't going to be probably that finally finished of a painting, but the goal for me is to be loose and expressive. And it may be a disaster, and I may delete this, but we're going to try. So I'm obviously doing a couple of the key shadows. Hope everybody had a nice turkey day today. Or I guess it was yesterday. I'm just trying to squint down. I'm looking for big shapes. Kai, to me, paint's a little bit oversaturated, but I'm gonna try not to worry too much about that. So that right here is a little bit too dark. Probably too soon for the eyes, but that's so red that and then I could feel the heat coming off of it. I gotta quit doing that. And just clean that solvent tank. Let's get some, before we work on those eyes, let's get some more of this color down. This is really our lightest lights, kind of over here. Her eyes are probably going to be lower. Let me get the kind of crown of her hair in there. I'm going to go pretty dark for now. Kind of frame her face a little bit. I know that's going to be redder, but all right. So still, except for the background, I used this one for the background, but I pretty much have obviously been just using this big thick one the whole time. I'm not ready to do her mouth yet. I'm gonna try to get like the triangle of her eyes and in kind of the bottom of her nose before we get her mouth in there. I have a feeling that whole bottom is going to need to be adjusted quite a bit. The whole bottom meaning pretty much from her nose to her chin. We should take a second and do some measuring though. Let's see. I've got my trusty knitting needle out. Hopefully it's long enough. But why don't we do some measuring before we get too out of control? Yeah, I think I do got to get my paintbrush out. Let me get a paintbrush. I guess I'm going to have to get a bigger knitting needle. Get a brush that we're not using. All right. So I kind of lopped off her head. So we're going to go from the bottom of her chin to her hairline. Let's see, how do I measure that? So we're going to say that's her hairline. I will use this. We'll say that's her hairline. And we'll say that's her bottom of her chin for now. So if we go, what's half the distance? Sorry, you guys can't see me measuring. So let's see, let's do a third of the distance. Half the distance doesn't look like anything. We'll do a third of the distance. Third of the distance works. So the third of the distance from her brow line to the bottom of her nose to the bottom of her chin. Let's see how we're doing. So there to there to there. So that's about right. Whoops. I guess that's where her mouth is going to go. So that's not too bad. And then typically kind of through the center of the nose is about the same distance. The width is about the same distance as kind of the widest spot of the head. So bottom of the chin to the bridge, eyebrow bridge, is kind of about the same distance as the widest part. So kind of in there. So, all right, yeah, that's pretty good. So on Scarlet, it's a little bit wider through her eyes. So I am going to use my knitting needle now. So her eyes, typical eyes, I got to do the left eye or the right eye because the other eye's got hair over the top of it. So like her brow comes like this, maybe more like that. And then her eye comes like this. But where I want to measure is from and so this should be about half the distance. So yeah, that's about right. So again, about half the distance. It's about right. That's kind of where her pupil is, a little higher. All right, and then this, where her bottom of her nose is, that's kind of where the upside down parabola of her nose is. And then why don't we go with that for now? Why don't we see what we could do about cleaning that up? All right. That's a little more measuring than what Kai does, but I remember from Kai's workshop, he would come around and help me with my drawing and show me like kind of how to measure like that. So let's put an eyebrow in here for now. Hers is quite a bit redder. Let's get it red. And I got to be careful because this line is the top of our eyebrow, so I kind of went too high, didn't I? Don't worry about it. What we'll do is we'll get a lighter color. Let's get that skin tone. And knock that back down. And hers kind of goes up here. She's literally got a hair that goes right down into that eye. Okay. Kind of screwed that up there. Because this goes like that. Something that I should call out too, this line here, that goes through her pupils. And so her eye actually drops down from here, down. So let's make sure that we do that. Same here. Gotta quit wiping out those lines. Can't help myself, but I really should be messing with this part. Just feels like it's supposed to be wider to me. Her skin is so red, and like stuff like her eyebrows are so red. I'm like, is that real? Or did I jack up the, I gotta get some, you know what? I'm an idiot. I don't have any orange down. So Scarlett is probably currently probably the closest thing I have to a muse. Um, to me, that means when I've got a photography project, or if I'm wanting to schedule a portrait painting or bigger drawing, she's probably the first person that pops up in my mental list of models to work with. This photo that we're using is from my birthday photo shoot on the 30th of October. If you look at my Instagram, she's all over my Instagram. I met her through a workshop that Kayla and Bobby put on probably right when I first started really getting into photography, to where I was at the point where I wanted to get some instruction. And she wasn't the first model or the first group of models, but she was one of Bobby and Kayla's favorite models. And I ended up taking probably 4 or 5 workshops from those guys, and she was just kind of always there. And kind of quiet, you know, compared to the rest of the girls, maybe a little older than the rest of the girls that were at the workshop. But also kind of an artist. Not that the other girls weren't artists, but Scarlett to me seemed like a seeker, like wasn't content really with just getting up there and, you know, going through the same, you know, 20 poses. You know, seemed like every few minutes that I had with her, she was trying something different and was kind of down for anything photography wise. And then I just always enjoyed like her conversations and stuff. Nothing too noteworthy or whatever, but she's just easy to talk to, and we're kind of on the same level. And I liked all of her ideas. You know, if she wanted to try something or whatever, she kind of taught me that the models, her and Jen Jones, kind of taught me that, you know, pretty much if a model has an idea about something, it's never bad. You know, at the very least, it ends up being interesting. And I think that's at the end of the day, that's what I'll say that's what I'm going for, is interesting. And then I think what happened is I would put out calls for models, and then Scarlett, despite living quite a ways away from me, would, you know, about 50% of the time offer to model for whatever I had in mind. Like I said, whether it's figure drawing or portraiture. I don't think she liked portraiture that much, but and then she's a grinder. You know, to get out to a lot of the shoots that I met her at, there were long drives for her, and I know that she wasn't getting paid a ton of money. So yeah, anyways, if I put out a call for models and she hits me up, I'd rather work with her than just about anyone. So I always learn a lot from her too. Kind of fussing a little bit, but I'm just kind of bopping around and kind of refining shapes. I shouldn't be blending, but sometimes I can't help myself. All right, I've got to get out. I've got a couple of new favorite brushes I need to get out. So I just took my dog to Sunol to go hiking, and still a little out of sorts about it, but she attacked the dog. And really upset the owner, and I would be upset too. I let her off leash there. I guess that was the last time. But I've been letting her off leash there, and she's been pretty good. But she got into trouble this time. Totally my fault. I kind of froze, to be honest, when Izzy attacked the dog. Just trying to get something down for me to measure from again. Yeah, let me relax a little bit and look at this. But yeah, she freaking attacked this dog, and of course it was the whole family. There's probably about 8 people out for a family hike. It's a holiday weekend, and of course they had their dog off a leash too, but totally not their fault. But Izzy just ran up, and before I could realize what was going on, she attacked that dog. So, and I got scolded, which I should have been scolded a little bit. But yeah, not fun. Not fun. Totally my fault, but. It's weird how it's weird how much darker this eyebrow is than the other eyebrow. Speaking of Kai, he just messaged me. I miss that kid. quite ready to paint over her eyebrows. But that's something that we could fix. Trying to frame in her face a little more. Yeah, see, by using that Gamsol, all this blue is already dry. Ooh, time flies. We're already at 55 minutes. My goodness. See if we could fix that nose a little bit. See that little glob of black right there? Oops, sorry. It's best to wipe that off. This light is so light. The light skin tone is so light. Any dirtiness like that, I'll just jack it up. messy. Let's take a second and measure a little bit. I know that's our least favorite thing to do, but let's see. Why don't we use? I think this was a brush that we were using. All right, let's put this down. Use this on our left hand, and this on our right hand. So we don't have to measure it again, but so about a third. So this hasn't changed. I can still see that line there. So a third and a third. So let's check the width of her head. So through the eyes. All right, so those are the simple ones. Let's do the eyes again. So we'll do this one on the right, because you can see the whole eye. So right there to there. Halfway, probably not quite. So there to there. So that should be the width of the eyes. So I feel like I'm cheating already. Yeah, we're doing some cheating. Sorry about that. So, just measure again. Oh, and that's something to keep in mind too. So I was measuring our whole eye. So we need to make sure. So this would be where a pupil is. So we need to make sure that we're doing that type of thing. So is that level? It's not level, it's a little twisted. And then actually in the image, in the photo reference, her left eye is quite a bit lower. So we kind of got to move everything down. So this whole thing needs to come down here. So this whole eyebrow needs to come down. So that's the top of our iris. This is kind of the top of like where our eyeshadow is. This whole thing needs to come down here. which means this whole thing needs to come down here. All right, let's play around with that a bit. And then we'll take a little break. And then this, I keep jacking up. I know this needs to come over. I should have done that. So now I've got all that dirty paint up there. Try not to be too fussy about the eye. I'm losing that battle though. Let's see here. It's weird how dark one side is versus the other. Not good, not good. I need to take a little break. Thanks for watching.